No one has done this to Lamine Yamal until now. Spain dominated, but Portugal walked away as Nations League champions. But there was one player that stole the show and frustrated Yamal like no other player had done before. I'll be breaking down how Nuno Mendes exposed Yamal's biggest flaw, the poor tactical setup that almost cost Portugal the final, and the change that Martinez made that flipped the final back in Portugal's favour. This match gave us the jewel that we missed out on in the Champions League final, but it was worth the wait. The best right winger in Europe came up against the best left back in Europe this season, and we have to analyse the goal and assist from Mendes to understand why he dominated that battle. Now for the first goal, Portugal already had 4 players in support of the attack down that left hand side, with Neto on the ball, Ronaldo supporting play, and Vitinha Fernandes at the base. But look who wants to join the attack. Look who finds just that little bit of space in the half space down that left hand side that Spain had vacated. And Neto finds him with a lovely little pass inside. But this is where Mendes comes alive. On the ball, that take on ability, he uses the momentum of Mingueza, who comes out and probably overcovers centrally rather than trying to just block Mendes moving forward. But he just shifts that ball into his left foot. Pace and power and acceleration to get beyond Mingueza, and it's just a beautiful clean strike into that bottom right hand corner. But that wasn't the end of it, because the assist is where he exposed Yamal's biggest weakness. Now when Nuno Mendes receives the ball down the left hand side, Spain seemed quite secure. Yamal's in a goal side position, you have the covering right back, and from this position you don't expect what happens later, but what he does here is explosive. And Yamal is just not used to dealing with this on a week by week basis. What also doesn't help Yamal is the movement of Neto. It's quite simple, but what he does is he drops to make a little passing option, potentially for a 1-2, but Mingueza just comes out a bit too far, doesn't really cover in behind Yamal as well, but you expect Yamal to still defend his space much better than he actually does. And the beauty is in the detail. The technique of Mendes in this take on, he drops that right shoulder as if he's about to drop inside and drive inside to that central area. It throws Yamal's balance onto his left side, and he just drives with the ball, using that right foot to just sort of kick and run in a way. But it's that bit beforehand that's where the skill is. Just dropping that shoulder inside, just upsetting the balance of Yamal, and then the pace, the power, that ability to just exploit that space in behind and carry the ball forward is so good from Nuno Mendes. Yamal is nowhere to be seen. Mingueza tries to cover and get back into position, but at this point it's too late. The cross from Mendes is deflected, and then in the box, Cucurella's weak at the back post. Ronaldo just brushes him aside, and he just taps it in to that bottom left-hand corner. Beautiful finish from Ronaldo, but this is just that single individual piece of effort and skill from Nuno Mendes, exposing Yamal's defensive ability. Now, Nuno Mendes had the most dribble attempts of any player on the pitch. And when you consider the attacking talents on show in Yamal, in Nico Williams, in Conceição down that right-hand side, and even Neto down that left-hand side, it's just insane that he came out top of that metric. And in terms of that defensive side of the game, he wasn't dribbled past once. He's such a solid defender, that athletic ability, but even that skill in how to read the shifts and movements, maybe because he's so good at it himself, is so good from Nuno Mendes. But there was one key moment at 2-2 that was so important and probably secured the win for Portugal in the Nations League Cup final. Now at 2-2, just after Portugal had scored, a key moment in the game, this situation occurs. Ruiz plays a lovely little ball with the outside of his boot in behind that Portugal back line. You can see that Vitinha is slacking a little bit in that man marking role he had on Pedri, but look how far away Nuno Mendes is from Pedri. About 8 to 10 yards. Pedri even has a little bit of momentum moving forward, whereas Mendes is upright and not really ready to run at this moment in time. But look at that recovery pace, just to get in behind and get in front of Pedri. Pedri isn't the quickest, but he had enough momentum and space in front of him to drive with this ball. But he just felt a little bit of fear. The fear of Mendes getting back in with that pace, and he just cuts back inside, and it feels like Mendes has done his job at this point. But Pedri is a skillful player. He does a little shimmy feint, gets back onto that right foot. Mendes twists and turns that body, very agile, very mobile, to get back in the line of sight of that shooting opportunity for Pedri. And it's a lovely block on Pedri's shot. Goes out for a corner. It's that recovery pace, that defensive instinct that athleticism to get back into that line of sight of Pedri as he shifts back onto his right foot. That was so impressive from Nuno Mendes. And it was a complete performance from Nuno Mendes. Again, another big game in a final, this time for the national team. And it was his contributions that dug Roberto Martinez out of a hole, because his first half tactical setup nearly cost Portugal the game. There were two major tactical mistakes from Martinez in that first half, and the first of which I don't think even Nico Williams could believe the decision he made with the lineup. João Neves playing at right back against one of the best dribblers in Europe. In possession of the ball, it seemed like a decent idea, but out of possession, just not a good idea at all. And you can just see, he just didn't know how to play right back. From the positioning on the pitch, the body shape, the ability to get out to your winger or drop off and find the right distance between you and your opponent. And you can see here, as Nuno Mendes receives the ball and carries it out the pitch, he tries to jump up and play offside. It's a bit kamikaze for my liking. You can see Diaz is there on the cover that might just support him if things go wrong. But you can see, as Nuno Mendes carries the ball forward, it's not too much of an issue. He plays that ball out wide to Cucurella. And again, he's playing like a midfielder, pressing high up the pitch. And his momentum is too fast into Nico Williams as Cucurella receives this ball. He should be slowing down, being ready to go either way, depending on what Cucurella does, but it's too late. Nico Williams spots it, checks his shoulder, and makes a lovely little curve run. And there's just so much space to play in behind at this point. There's nothing João Neves can do. You can see his momentum still facing forward as Cucurella is about to strike this ball, and it's too late. It's only the recovery pace and the defending of Ruben Diaz that sort of gets goal side of Nico Williams and just shoves him off the ball. And that's why João Neves was substituted at half time. But the second tactical mistake from Martinez was punished by Spain in their second goal. And the warning signs were there as early as the second minute. And it was all down to how Portugal set up when in possession of the ball. You can see that Portugal set up with the three at the back and Vitinha just ahead of them. That guy that can get on the ball, make things happen. But look what they did with the rest of the players. All 6 players ahead of that Spain midfield, and it causes a huge problem when they lost the ball. In this specific situation, João Neves attempts to take on Nico Williams, loses the ball, and Cucurella finds a little pass into Fabian Ruiz, and look how open they are. And look at the decision that Vitinha makes in this counter-attack moment for Spain. For some reason, he overcovers on Nico Williams and leaves Pedri of all players with so much space in the centre of the pitch. You know, the tactic of leaving Vitinha by himself and the decision making for Vitinha off the ball just didn't help. But having that many players ahead of the ball cost them in that second goal for Spain. And you can see they set up with the 3 at the back again. Vitinha just ahead of them, trying to make things tick and get the play moving forward. He carries the ball forward and you can see the 6 players, one of them off screen, just making different options for him on the ball. But the problem occurs as he plays the pass. He plays the pass into Ronaldo's feet. Ronaldo tries to flick it around the corner. But look at the decision making of Vitinha here. I'm not sure if he's been told this, but surely as the only midfielder at the base of that midfield, ahead of that back 3, with every single other player ahead of the ball, you cannot make a run forward here. You have to trust that Ronaldo can hold up this ball, flick it around the corner for the other attackers, but instead he makes that movement forward. And as Spain win that ball back from that loose pass from Ronaldo, he plays it into Yamal, who plays it into Pedri, and then they're off. And look at this situation here. 5 players in behind that Portugal midfield, running at that back line, just those back 3, just totally outnumbered. And Pedri drives with the ball, lovely little run from Oyarzabal, a lovely little pass through from Pedri, and it's just a cute finish, just a little toe poke into that bottom left-hand corner. But it cost them in this game. They were lucky to still be in the game in that first half. And he changed it by bringing on Ruben Neves later in that second half. And it did change things. It did sort of stifle that momentum for Spain. But by then it was too late. They had already scored 2 goals. And it needed the likes of Nuno Mendes to get them back into the game. And I'm torn about whether I should give Martinez credit for this. But he did make one change later on in the second half that rested the momentum back in Portugal's favour. And that is bringing on Rafael Leao. And the impact of Leao was so obvious to see. And he was helped by the positioning of the man in the match, Nuno Mendes again, inverting from that left back role, just trying to draw players away, but also being there to link if he could. Leao picks up the ball down that left hand side and he just thrives in these situations. Looks like he's outnumbered with no space to play, just draws the defender in Mingueza. Yamal trying to cover behind and add some support. Doesn't matter because Leao plays a little pass into Nuno Mendes' feet. Mendes plays a little 1-2 back into him. That little run and dart in behind Mingueza is so good from Leao, that acceleration. And then this is where he thrives. That space to attack him behind, just the pace he shows to get away from Zubimendi, so good. And then he takes on the defender, totally takes him out of the game and wins a free kick. And you can see the impact of these two players down that left-hand side later on in extra time. The ball's played into Leao's feet, and you can really see the impact of Leao. Look at the gap between him and his nearest defender. Too scared of him running in behind. Just the gap between them is so large that he's able to play a lovely little pass around the corner into Mendes' feet. And this is where it's just brilliant from Mendes. That ability to drive, accelerate from a player. It's just so good. Merino tries to stick with him, but look at the starting position of Mendes. Back to goal. This is where you should be able to get tight to him, force him back, but Merino has no chance. Just a little chop with his left foot away from Merino. And look at the separation that he's able to get from Merino within the first few yards. Facing forward, Marino, you can see head down, struggling to catch up with him. Lenormand tries to get out to him, but he just doesn't show him down the line. He lets him come inside so easily. That take-on ability from Nuno Mendes, there again to see. He drives inside, tries to win that penalty with a bit of a dive, but it's just that carrying ability, that threat from that left-hand side that was so vital, especially when Leao came on. And Spain ended up taking off Lamine Yamal in extra time. You can see the frustration in his face as he was taken off, but such was the threat of Leao and Mendes down that side, they brought on Pino for that extra cover and support. And in hindsight, he could have been the one to tuck away a penalty, but that was the impact of Leao and Mendes on the coaching staff of Spain. And if Portugal, talking about coaching, could get the right tactical setup, the right midfield balance, and keep Mendes and Leao down that left-hand side, they could be a key contender in the World Cup. And if you like this episode, make sure to smash that like button, that subscribe button, support the channel, watch another video up here that helps the algorithm and all that malarkey. And I'll see you on the next episode of A Game of Two Halves.